Well, always good to talk Griffins hockey. Even better yet, talk 2013 Calder Cup. And even beyond that, making it even more special as a member of that team and a very important member. Great storylines galore in 2013. One of them, Brett Skinner, now an assistant coach, Sioux Falls, United States Hockey League. We're actually playing hockey right now. We'll talk about that in a second. But in the meantime, Brett, great to see you. And we're going to have some fun here the next dozen minutes or so talking about 2013 and how special a year that was for you and everybody here in Grand Rapids.
No doubt. Always a pleasure to catch up with you and especially talk about those great memories from Grand Rapids.
But we talked, the storyline, there were a couple of them involving you. You'd kind of been bouncing around a bit. You were, sixth, seventh year pro, I think, in 13 by then, coming out of Denver University. We'll talk about that as well. You get picked up thanks to recalls of Brian Lashoff and Brendan Smith. Smith pretty much solidified a spot with the Red Wings during the second half of that year. 2013, you earned a spot on a call-up from Allen. I think it was the Central League at that time, right? Yeah. Little did you know when you started there, you'd be going on to win a Calder Cup with the Grand Rapids Griffins.
No doubt. So that was the lockout year where I was coming off. I'd been overseas and I played a year in Russia, and then the next year I did 3 different countries in 1 year where I went Germany, Finland, Sweden, and at that time maybe should have read the newspapers that maybe there was an impending lockout, and I should have tried to stay in one spot and get a contract for the next year. But I started the next year, and at that time it was like 170 European players from the NHL went back to Europe. And kind of my strategy was, well, I'll wait for the lockout to end, and then I'll sign a good contract in Europe with, and one of those top players goes back to the NHL. But then I found myself kind of skating with other NHLers, and all of a sudden the junior season had started. We were skating with the Wheat Kings a little bit, and it was me and a couple other guys, who were sitting on NHL deals when the lockout ended. And I knew that no matter what my opportunity was, I was going to have to be ready to go. So I got really lucky that Alan, Steve Martinson, brought me in and treated me awesome and gave me a ton of ice time. And I actually really enjoyed my time there. I think it was kind of like a little bit, of a lucky bounce for me that I got to go and even though it wasn't the best situation, play. And then even though I kind of thought I was going to go back to Europe, I got the call right when the lockout ended. I think Brendan Smith went up. So it was a unique opportunity where, they just basically plugged me right into his spot. I got the power play time and, I got to play, regular minutes and good minutes and all that stuff. So it was kind of a unique situation as far as like the lockout ending and a normal American Hockey League season. Those opportunities might not be there for an older guy. But it worked out obviously really well, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I got.
Yeah, I think you had like 40 points in 25 games as a defenseman with the Allen Americans of the Central Hockey League, and before the call up to Grand Rapids. And I think Jeff Hogan probably had a little something to do with knowing Brett Skinner was available in a time of need for the Griffins. Jeff Blashill, a guy that probably knew you well through the collegiate hockey ranks. So the stars aligned for you, Brett, and boy, what an addition you were to that team. And your numbers are almost identical to Brendan Smith, in fact, in terms of stats. You were always a good offensive defenseman, and you put some good numbers up in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I remember for sure. I know Jeff Blashill was good friends with my old college assistant coach, Seth Appert. And I think that my name had kind of got brought up that way. And obviously, I think when the opportunity came up from playing in the American League and knowing what a great organization Grand Rapids was, I kind of jumped at it. And for whatever reason, I didn't talk to Hoagie before. It all happened really quickly. It was kind of
right.
Like, I'm here, and I just kind of showed up. And, I think it kind of became apparent to both parties, myself and Blash and Grand Rapids, that, it would be a good fit, and we just kind of ran with it. But like I said, I got plugged right into kind of Smitty's spot, and I remember we had, Nikes on my one flank on the power play, and Tats is, on the power play, and Frankie Perez on my other flank. So my thing when I played was just always try and get the puck to the good players, and the points follow and they kind of make you look good.
Gonna
So
say,
I like you there with playing with some good players.
There were plenty of them, weren't there? There were a lot of, we can almost forget how many collegiate stars there were on that team too. And, obviously you out of the University of Denver, a back-to-back national championship with the Pioneers, and you joined Glenn Denning from Michigan and Riley Shane. I know you became close with out of Notre Dame. That list, I think it was almost half that team, college hockey players in 2013.
Yeah, and I'm sure a little bit of that has to do with Blash, obviously, his familiarity with the college level and kind of the respect for that development process. And, I remember Chad Billings, who played on our power play as well, was kind of maybe a free agent signing, like on a ATO. And he came from Ferris, who Blash has the background with. And, you end up kind of getting those diamonds in the rough when you look to the college level, and kid that maybe would have been passed over, maybe had to start in the East Coast League, but Blash gave him a good chance. He ended up having really good numbers in the American League and being a really good pro. So, obviously like a comfortable setting for me to come into and when you're in the locker room and talking about the old rivalries and you kind of get the college talk going, it was definitely a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, Jeff Hogan at Nebraska Omaha. You played with a bit in Providence, the American League, and those connections are always fun to uncover, if you will. But boy, bottom line is, what a run, what a season for you. And then you help the team get all the way to the Calder Cup Finals, meet Syracuse, and I still look back and that other storyline that I love, disappointing at the time, but Danny DeKeyser joins the Griffins from the Red Wings after coming back from that broken thumb. And there's got to be a guy that sits. And Jeff Blashill had that incredibly difficult decision to make. It was Brett Skinner who had to sit the first 3 games of the Calder Cup Finals. The way you handled that, Brett, was the true pro that you really, really were and still are.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think looking back on it, there was a part of me that was probably disappointed that I didn't force his hand to have to play me on a personal level. I certainly had no problem with it at the time, and I was at a point in my career where I understand those decisions need to be made. DeKeyser was coming out of college. He's a really good player. He's obviously gone on to prove that, and he was a part of Detroit's future. And that being said, you're just trying not to be a distraction, and you're in the finals, and you just move forward. And then, obviously, probably the hard part of the decision was Blash maybe thinking he had to tell me, but obviously, I'd been around long enough that at that point in my career, I knew winning a championship and being a part of that, is just something that's not only great for your career, but, a lifelong memory. And you've come so far, you want to finish it off. And then being able to get a chance to get back in and play anyways in the series, and being a part of that championship game is obviously something that's real special.
Different set of circumstances, but, kind of reminded me the reaction of your teammates, similar to Rudy. The great movie Rudy. Well, they tried to get him into the lineup, and every Saturday he'd find out he wasn't playing, or Friday whenever the lineup was posted. And your teammates were really they were down when they knew that Brett Skinner was going to be that odd man out. But then they were just as excited. Unfortunate circumstances. Adam Alquist gets hurt in Game 3 in Grand Rapids. It puts Brett Skinner right back in the lineup, and you go on, play the next 4 games or 3 games, and help the team win the title.
Yeah, I think it was a special group, obviously, but I think, like I said, we had gone through so much, and the playoffs is such a grind that, and there was lots of other good players that were sitting out as well. I mean, we had guys in town that were young guys that would go on to have really good pro careers that maybe were just taking a part of it, and maybe that was a little bit of what made them be good pros. But I remember sitting out and doing the skates, and we were playing 3-on-3, and it was a really good hockey team that was sitting out, really, with the amount of guys we had in town. And obviously with Almer going down, just trying to be ready and being competitive in those skates and having those other guys push you. And I remember sitting in the stands with some of those guys, and you just try to be positive, and obviously at the end of the day, it's just whatever it takes to help the team win.
Disappointing not to win the title at home, but boy, what a celebration after claiming the Calder Cup in Syracuse Game 6. The next few days were a blur. I even asked if you remembered Jeff Hogan introducing you at the celebration at Van Andel Arena a couple of nights later. I don't think he remembers it much, and I know you don't either.
This guy's the ultimate journeyman. He lives a life out of one suitcase, survived his first trading deadline, and topped his long pursuit of glory off with this run. He'll be the first to tell you, what a life, number 3, Brett Skinner.
He did such a great job introducing all the guys and referred to you as that the ultimate journeyman. And then the whole what a life thing that was kind of a theme between you and him and some of the other guys too. What a life was a phrase that you used quite a bit during your time in Grand Rapids.
Yeah, I mean, Hoagie, obviously, he's one of a kind. And when you mentioned it, I don't remember specifically what he said about me, but I definitely remember the show he put on. And, he's awesome at that stuff. I still play in a fantasy baseball league with him. And he sends out a press release once a month that's, a 20-page essay, and he gets all into it. And it's really well done. And, I don't know if his baseball team's as good as his press releases, but Hoagie and I went back to our Providence days, and we had a good team that year, and actually got upset in the second round. And probably Hoagie, he had a bad laceration on his wrist, and I think he was going to be out. And that's pretty much what ended it for us. And he, I don't think it's a coincidence that when our paths crossed again, that he was there leading the way to another championship together, and speaks to his character. But obviously the what a life thing is, when you're in the minors, there's ups and downs, and it's just kind of a way to maybe chuckle your way through some of the bad times, whether a bus is breaking down or, it's a 3-3 and, you get a good bounce, you just kind of chalk it up, what a life. But Hoagie and I have, stayed in close contact since then. And he's definitely one of a kind that I was lucky to get to know over my career.
Yeah, he said he was more nervous introducing the players at that event at Van Andel Arena in front of a couple thousand fans than he was going into Game 6 in Syracuse. But boy, he did, as you said, he did a great job, and as did this team, Brett. What a phenomenal run it was. And I was just reading a story the other day. $3.7 million impact on Grand Rapids. If there's a stat for you. I love stats, being in this industry. It was some economic journal that came up with that number. The impact that it had on the West Michigan community, 3.7 million, that run of the Calder Cup. So pretty special, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, yeah, it was really, it's such a blur. You're playing almost every second day, and, traveling a ton with the teams that we had to play, and all the, I think, the tornadoes and stuff.
Yeah, Oak City, yeah.
All those things that you're going through, and but obviously the fan base in Grand Rapids is one of the best in the league, and packing the building and being able to play in front of the great fans, and like you said, not being able to maybe win it at home, but be able to bring the cup back and have Hoagie put on the show like he did was definitely special.
Well, where it all began for you, and I'll ask you, to compare, University of Denver, actually Trail is where it kind of all began, right? In the BCHL. And by the way, I'll ask you this: the Trail Smoke Eaters, Trail, British Columbia. What the heck is a smoke eater?
Yeah, so Trail's a little, it's a town in kind of the valley, and in the middle of the town is a Cominco plant, and it's got the two big smokestacks coming up, and there's just smoke coming out of the stacks. So I guess they call them the smoke eaters, but they actually, I mean, it's a really, historic franchise in Canada. I think they won a world championship, 60 years ago or whatever. And I'm not doing them justice on the history of the program, but the logo is kind of famous. And then, my kind of claim to fame is they ended up finding a way to turn the smoke into fertilizer or use it in a different way. So the first year that they changed the logo, where they didn't have smoke coming out of the stacks, was the year that I played there. So although they kept the name the Smoke Eaters, it was the first year that they didn't have the smoke coming out of the stacks in the logo.
Well, the Brandon, Manitoba kid, Red Skinner, goes from there to the University of Denver. So my question now, you went back you're the only collegiate, of all the collegiate stars that have played here in Grand Rapids, you're the only one to win back-to-back NCAA titles as a member of the Denver Pioneers. What was more special, those back-to-back championships of the Calder Cup with the Grand Rapids Griffins?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Two totally different processes. Where in college, it's, a 4-game tournament. I think the first year that we won it, when I was a sophomore, was a little bit more of a surprise. We actually got upset in the first round of the WCHA playoffs, which for that team was probably better because it allowed us to recover. We were kind of grinding in the second half and playing really well, but we had some injuries, so we got a weekend off instead of going to the WCHA Final Five. And then we had to play a really good North Dakota team to win the regional, and we got to play them on the big sheet at CC. So you think about all the little kind of things that go into winning the college one. If we had to play North Dakota on a small sheet, would that big team have beat us? And then, we go in and win in the finals. We end the game 6-on-3, with 2 penalties in the last minute and a half there. So storylines like that, which can kind of find, they're a little crazy. The next year we were a really good team, but then you think, it's only 4 games. We go to overtime against Bemidji in the first game. So how quickly it could have been done. The pro one is just a longer process. It's
much longer. Right?
Certainly every series has its own storylines. And, I think of even the first round series we had against
Houston.
Houston, where it went 5, but we had like the Minnesota Wild goalie got hurt stepping on the ice for warm-up.
Darcy Kemper. Yeah.
They call up Darcy Kemper, and he was playing awesome. And then we end up winning that game 8-1 or something. And, but you think like, hey, that backup goalie steps on the ice fine and Kemper plays that game. Maybe that 5th game goes a different way. And those are the things in this game that are kind of, I've been lucky to be on the right side of it. Certainly in a long career, you're on the wrong side of it at times too. But, all the different things along the way, the Toronto series, how good that team was, some of the NHL players that they had sent down that were able to get through them. And obviously you think about that Syracuse team, the talent that they had.
Boy.
So, definitely. I couldn't say one's better than the other. Certainly different, but consider myself lucky to be a part of both.
Yeah, no doubt. You're emotionally and physically spent by the time you're done. Not that you aren't in college, but that long grind. And we went, most of those series went the distance.
Yep.
In that 2013 campaign. Brett, we'll wrap this up. I want to ask about, finishing up your career playing overseas. I love the story I was reading about, playing on a team in Sweden where I think your GM and coaches were the likes of Peter Forsberg, Marcus Naslund, Ulf Samuelsson, and it was a pretty close-knit team. You hung out. I like to tell people I was in Kansas City with Doug Sotart, Paul McLean, and Lucien Deblois, 3 legends of the Winnipeg Jets. Every time we'd go to Winnipeg and play, I would just hang out with those guys and ride their coattails. I can't imagine being in Sweden going out to dinner with Naslund, Forsberg, and Samuelsson.
Yeah, and I was playing for Modo, so that's that, historic franchise in Sweden, and had heard about it. The Sedins were there, and you speak about going out. The Sedins own the restaurant, a little Italian place that we'd always eat at, but it was almost like they were so famous when you went out and ate and you were sitting with them. You just have the place to yourself. Like it's more like a VIP status where they like shut the place down for them. But definitely a really cool experience. And I can remember we had a really good team, but the league was really balanced, and we were kind of fighting for a playoff spot. And Forsberg came in and kind of ripped into us, kind of played bad cop. And, when he speaks, you definitely listen. And then Naslund kind of came in and was maybe the good cop after a little bit. And, but anytime you get a chance to be around people like that, and also Samuelsson was a coach who had a great NHL career, but I actually thought he was a really good coach as well. And it's kind of nice for me that he spoke English and when you're over in Europe. So it was definitely really cool to be a part of that organization.
Yeah, nice to be in a locker room where everybody's speaking English, because it was not like Finland, where one of the teams you played on there, I don't think many guys were speaking the English language, so it makes it a little more challenging, no doubt, for, as they call it, the imports
Yeah.
come over from North America. Settled down now in Sioux Falls, where your wife, actually, Katie, happens to be from. She's a dentist there. 2 little boys now. Talk about life in Sioux Falls.
Yeah. So my wife was born and raised here, and then probably the last several years before I retired, I'd spent most of my summers here, and then at that time anyways, there is now, but there was no ice in the summer, so I'd usually go to Denver, back home in Brandon, and skate with the junior team or skate with the college team in Denver. Yeah, my last few years in the Czech Republic, obviously we got married, one of them, and then decided to start a family, and basically when she got pregnant with my first Thomas, kind of approached Scott Owens, who was the head coach and GM at the time, and thought, coaching might be something I'm interested in, and got really lucky that he took me on. There wasn't really a position open, and, it just kind of kept moving forward from there. Scott retired then a year ago, and we brought on Marty Murray, who had a really good pro career as well, several seasons in the NHL. And then also familiar with the American League, and he's actually played junior in my hometown. He's from Manitoba, and so we had skated with each other in the summer. So I would say for this going into my 4th year of coaching, to be able to work for Scott Owens, who has not only a ton of USHL experience, but 15 years as a head coach in college, pretty special experience. And then now to not have to move jobs at all and be able to work for someone like Marty, I consider myself really lucky.
And playing hockey, not much hockey being played in North America at a significant level, but the USHL is underway.
Yeah, I mean we're up and running. I think state to state the rules are different. It's been very flexible. If a team shut down because of the league protocols, and we've had to reschedule games, and just you don't start your pre-scout until Thursday evening for sure for the Friday games. Because you never know what's going to happen. But basically, our guys have been awesome. Obviously, had to sacrifice a lot as far as off the ice and how they approach things, and definitely appreciative of their effort. And there's challenges for sure, but definitely consider ourselves lucky that we've been able to go this far for sure.
And got a title there a couple of years ago, 2019. So things are going well for Brett Skinner. You look at your resume and it's like, yeah, you bounced around, played for a whole bunch of different teams, Brett. But boy, you look back with 2 national titles in college and a Calder Cup with the Griffins. Well, what a life for Brett Skinner, huh?
No doubt, what a life.
Brett, thanks a ton. All the best, huh? Good luck with the Stampede.
Catch it up.
Yeah, always a pleasure, pal.